Are you looking for some holiday inspiration? Look no further. In today's video, I'm sharing my top 10 swags or centerpieces for your home. Some of them are deco mesh, some of them are little Christmas trees from the Dollar Tree that we transformed into a swag wreath. So all kinds of fun going on in today's video. By the way, my name is Nadia and this little sweetheart is Simba, and we are ready to get this party started. Let's go. Let's go over the supplies that I'm going to be using. I'm going to start with this beautiful blue deco mesh. It's 10 inches by 10 yards in length. This is going to be my main deco mesh. And then my secondary deco mesh, I usually like to take rolls that I have left over because this is going to be to make curls. So whatever theme you're doing, this is a great way to use up rolls that you're just not sure what you can get out of them. You're going to need some pipe cleaners. For ribbon, I'm going to be using 2 wired ribbons. One is a silver one, and this one I had in my stash. I'm not sure how much I can get out of this one either, but as I said, a swag wreath is perfect to use up those little leftover pieces. Also, 2 of these beautiful silver branches. For the sign, I'm going to be using one of my favorite things, and it's a yardstick or pick, whatever you call it. And the reason is you can take this off and there are no holes in the sign itself. So this makes for a perfect centerpiece for your wreath or your swag wreath. The base of this wreath is going to be our stir stick. It's 21 inches in length, and we are going to make this one nice and full. I'm also going to be using some jute cord, and this is to make a hanging loop for our stir stick. Before I get started on the swag itself, I like to add the hanging loop first. I'm going to decide where my front is, usually where the ruler is. I like that to be in the front. So I'm going to flip, and then I'm going to go to the narrowest part of my swag and take my piece of jute cord about 1/3 in and make a little knot. After I have my initial knot, I'm going to make a little loop about 1.5 to 2 inches is just fine. And then I'm going to grab the shorter end and tie another knot. If you want to wrap it around with the longer end one more time, you can also do that. But now you just want to make sure that that hanging loop is secure. So make another knot with the opposite side of the tail, cut off the excess. The loop is nice and secure, and this is a great option if you don't have access to some power tools, so you can just drill a hole on top of the swag. As an extra step, you can take a piece of felt, ribbon, piece of fabric, whatever you have on hand, and put some hot glue over the jute cord in the front, and then put that little piece over it, and that's going to give you a little bit more security. Let's get our sign ready. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the little stake. It was that easy. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the tag. The reason I removed the tag is I'm going to grab a zip mount and put one right there, the other one towards the bottom. Let's remove the adhesive, add a little bit of the super glue. To make sure the mounts don't slip off the little foam part, we are going to put some hot glue all around the actual mount. And now we're just going to let it dry. Next, we're going to grab our 8 pipe cleaners and we're going to attach them to our stir stick swag. We're going to have a double on each side and double in the center. This is going to keep this wreath super full. And then we have 2 singles that we're going to place in the middle to cover the centers. Let's start with the center one, and I'm going to start at 10.5 inches on my ruler because that's our center. Going to twist on the side and fold this to the side. Then I'm going to grab my second one and I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to twist it on the opposite side, just like that. At the sides, I go about 2.5 inches because that's where usually my hanging loop is. So I'm going to go right underneath that hanging loop, and I'm going to have one pipe cleaner go on one side, the other pipe cleaner on the other side. And then I'm going to put another set at 2.5 inches from the bottom. The two that we have left, we're going to put them in between, and they're going to be facing up this time. So I'm just going to find my center at about 6.5 inches from the bottom and just twist that and twist it up. On the top, we're going to go at 14.5 inches, twist it in the center. As far as these center ones, you can definitely eye these. I just know my measurements by now because I have done so many of these, but honestly, they don't have to be exact on the dot because this is going to be so filled in. The bottom of this swag really doesn't have anything to stop these pipe cleaners from falling off. Not that it would happen, but just to make sure, I like to put extra hot glue right on top over the center, and I'm going to grab my little piece of felt. You can do ribbon, fabric, whatever you have left over, and I'm going to put it right over, and trust me, it is solid and it's not going to go anywhere. Just like that. If you want to put more hot glue right here, you can definitely do that. For example, to hot glue these center ones in place so they don't go up and down, that's just fine. But I think the most important one is the bottom one. To make my cruffles, I'm going to be cutting my Deco mesh into 30-inch strips. You can cut anywhere from 24 to 30 to 35. My cutting mat is 24 inches. I'm adding 5.5 inches plus this 1/2 inch on the edge, which gives me 30 altogether. So I'm just going to take it to 30, get my rotary cutter or roller cutter, and start cutting. Then I'm just going to roll it naturally and put it to the side. I'm going to need 8 of these. Now I'm going to use my beautiful white one, and I'm going to be cutting it into 10-inch strips. Now it's time to make the cruffles, and you're going to need some sort of a clamp or a clothespin, something to hold one side while you're working on the other side. So first things first, our Deco mesh is rolling away from the table, and I'm going to start by rolling the edge about 2-3 times. This is going to secure all of that fraying, and now I'm going to flip it and push it away from me until I get to the edge. On the other edge, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll about 2-3 times, and I want the diameter of my curl to be 1 to 1.5 inches. Since my Deco mesh is a solid color, I'm going to use my measuring mat to gather my Deco mesh. I'm using the 10-inch little square, and I'm going to bring it together in this tiny little 2x2 square. I got my Deco mesh, and I'm going to just gather right in that center. When I get to the end, I'm just going to let my clamp out, and I have my little cruffle. If you feel like you went crooked somewhere and you have a little groove like this, just pull it out, and now we're nice and even. And this does not need to be exactly even. Just make sure that you are attaching it in the center. Let's do another one. We're going to curl up about 2-3 times, clamp it, and then turn it over, curl 2 to 3 times on the other side. Using my cutting mat, I'm going to be bringing it together in the center. After I gathered it, I'm going to put it on the next pipe cleaner. 3 of the cruffles are attached. Everything's getting filled in so beautifully. And now I'm going to continue adding cruffles to the rest of these pipe cleaners. Now it's time to grab the white Deco mesh, and we're going to make little curls. I managed to get 10 of them from the roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 on each of the doubles. And these center ones, I'm going to do 2 of the curls in each one of these. When it comes to making the curls, we're going to do exact same thing that we did on the cruffles. And I'm going to roll about 1 to 1.5 inches in diameter. I have my little curl, and I'm going to add it to each of the double pipe cleaners. I have 1 curl each on the double pipe cleaner. Now I'm going to make 2 curls and put that in the single pipe cleaner. So I curled it, clipped it, Now I'm going to do the second one. I like to crisscross them together, and I'm going to attach. Next, I'm grabbing my beautiful ribbon, and I'm going to be cutting it into 12-inch strips. I'm going to see how much ribbon I can get out of this roll, and I'm going to finish it off. When it comes to the edges, we are going to dovetail them. So just fold them in half and cut a little triangle. And do the same thing to the other side. Out of this gorgeous ribbon, I got 16 pieces, which means I'm going to have 2 per bundle. And as far as the silver one is concerned, I'm going to do 8 of these and just add 1 more. It's going to bring out the silver that's in this ribbon, and it's going to look beautiful. So same thing, I'm going to zigzag and then cut the endings to make little dovetails. My ribbon is ready, 16 of the blue, 8 of the silver. I'm going to take 2 of the blues, find my center, and crisscross them. Bring in my silver. If you need to find the center, go ahead and fold it in half. Now you know where your center is. And we're going to bring this whole piece together. And now all that's left is to add it to your swag. A few twists. Since I'm not going to add anything to the center with my pipe cleaner, I'm just twisting the pipe cleaner up about 1 inch from the little connection and then folding it and folding it back. Moving on to our next one, fold in half, find my center, do a little crisscross, grab my silver one, there's my center there, and we're going to bring it together. Just crunch it in the middle like that and attach it to the other side. I'm going to straighten up all the ribbon at the end. For now, my goal is to attach all the ribbon bundles to the swag. When it came to attaching the bundle in the center of our swag on that middle double, I attached the ribbon facing out in a little V on both sides because I knew my sign was going to go in the center, and this ribbon being here is a great way to cover that center area on both sides. All my ribbon bundles are on. Now I'm grabbing the sign, going to flip it over and put a pipe cleaner through each one of the mounds. Putting the gnome right on. Just make sure that your hanging loop is on the right side when you're attaching your cute little centerpiece. Flip it over. A few twists. I like the way that looks. I'm going to flip back over, tighten my pipe cleaners. Cut them off if they're too long. Next, I'm going to grab some leftover ribbon and I'm going to cover the back of the swag. What I'm going to do is just fold a little bit, about a 1/2 inch, and we're going to fold that back. Put some hot glue on, fold it over and attach. A little bit of hot glue here and there. I'm going to go a little further than our hanging loop and cut, and then I'm going to fold right at the edge of our hanging loop, hot glue this part in place, and then I'm going to do the same thing, a little bit on the edge, fold that over, a little bit more, and I'm going to put that right underneath my loop so it's nice and clean. Go a little bit further than your edge, fold that over, a little bit of hot glue, and set that in place. Now that the back of the wreath is beautifully covered, I'm going to flip it back over, and now we can start arranging all that beautiful ribbon, setting it in place, poofing it out, always like a flower or a leaf. The 2 center ribbon, I would poof out just a little bit more so you cover that center. Make sure everything is showing that you want shown. This wreath is beautiful as it is, but I feel like it's missing a little bit more oomph, and that is where I'm going to bring in these branches. Cut off the branches as close to the edge as I can. Grab the longest one, and I'm going to put it right in the center. I like the way it looks already, so I'm going to grab hot glue and hot glue it in place. Now that this one is in place, I'm going to start grabbing the other ones and adding them where I feel like I want just a little bit of silver coming through. Maybe one right here, one on the other side. And for these, I'm putting the hot glue straight on the branch. It's going to get melted in with the Deco mesh, and it's going to hold in place. one on this side, just like that. And then I'm going to grab the second branch and do the same thing from the other side. Simba just woke up and came to see how the swag turned out. And this is how it turned out. I think it's fun, and the branches did add a little bit of dimension. Perfect swag for winter. For this swag wreath, I'm starting with a white Christmas tree from the Dollar Tree. This is going to be our base. Then you're going to need some white berries, or maybe some white branches, or these beautiful bay leaves. These are from the Dollar Tree along with these branches. Then I'm going to be using these little candy picks along with this sweet little owl. And for ribbon, I'm going to be using this beautiful birch ribbon that I got at Hobby Lobby, and a white ribbon. This one I got at Craft Outlet. Both of my ribbons are 2.5 inches in width, and they are wired. Then I am going to use a few bushels of lamb's ear. These I get at Walmart. We're starting with a Christmas tree. We're not going to need any of these, so we're going to throw those out. Plus this bottom part right here, we don't need that either. This time, I'm not going to be putting this metal part at the top. It's going to be at the bottom. This is where the bow is going to be. And the first thing I do is I check where these little guys are, and that's going to be my top. Anything in the back, send it to the front. For this swag, you can definitely use floral wire or pipe cleaners. I'm going to be using some zip ties. And these are the average 6-inch zip ties that I always use. And there's a link in my description box and also in my Amazon store. And if you want to know what type of container this is actually a pen box. The 6-inch zip ties just really fit in perfectly, so I like using it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the tree upside down, and we're going to make the hook. This stem right here, the tallest one, going to bend it, and you can either bend it onto itself and zip tie it, or you can zip tie it to the actual stem. That is what I'm going to do. And if you're going to use a zip tie, you can get away with it, but if you're going to use anything else, it's not going to hold as well in the back. After zip tying it in place, the little tail that's left at the bottom, I'm going to flip it up, and that way you have a nice secure hook. Let's cut off the tail. Next, I'm going to attach the lamb's ear. These come two in a little bundle. First thing I'm going to do is wiggle it in, and I'm going to be attaching to the stem. Let's put the second one in, going the opposite way. And this one I'm going to bring lower just a little bit. We're using the Christmas tree as a base. The lamb's ear, that is basically our base. That's what is the most important thing in this wreath. All right, now I have my first two. Grabbing my zip tie, actually attach both of them together. I'm going to just keep that here. I'm not going to cut these because I might want to attach them a little bit lower also. The next one I'm going to put a little lower and on the other side of the one we just put in. And then the other one we're going to put facing the other way. That one's going to go a little lower than this one. Zigzagging it down, and that way I'm filling in all that space. Let's put the next set in. I'm going to add one more bundle because I really want this to be a full swag, and that's going to go right here. I'm going to bend it. Look how full this is already. So I'm going to turn this around to see what's going on in the back, and I'm going to just feel for the stems and start attaching. Then a nice zip tie here, and see, it's not as much zip ties as you think. I'm on zip tie number 3 when it comes to the actual greenery. Here at the bottom, I'm going to cut these a little bit lower than this part so it has a little bit of protection. Now that our greenery is in, I'm going to bring in the bay leaves. Our bay leaves are a 2-branch set, so I'm going to cut those off. Now let's put these in place, and I want them sticking out a little bit here and there. You have to have one in the middle, another one on the side, and I might put one straight at the top. None of my bay leaves are attached yet. That's just fine. I'm bringing in my sweet little white berries, and I do want to make sure that I have a bushel toward the top like that, because I only have 3, and then one is going to go right here and right here. This one I'm going to put a little higher. Now it's time to make sure everything is attached, and you can do one of 2 things. Either zip tie them or use your floral wire, or where you can get away with it, use one of these branches, and right here you have a little section that if I go around, this is going to get locked in. Let me do another twist. And that's it. This little branch is going nowhere. And if I wanted to cover the white up, I can definitely just throw one of these leaves in there. Best way to attach these is to zip tie to some branches from the Christmas tree along with our actual lamb's ear. So just use your judgment, see how you can make sure that it's secured and what works best for your swag. This one in the center is not attached to anything, so I'm going to just send a zip tie to the back, and that is how I'm going to make sure that it's attached. And always remember, when you cut something off and you have that little sharp end, make sure to send it to the side so it doesn't scratch the wall wherever this is going to be hanging, or door. Now it's time to put on my final touches, and I just wanted to mention that the candy here, the white berries, and this sweet little owl I got at Joann's after Christmas last year. I don't know about you guys, but I love shopping after Christmas sales. Let me know in the comments below if you're like me. And I shop more after Christmas than during the Christmas season, to be honest. Just putting the owl in, and I'll secure it a little later. Now I'm going to put these candies in, and I only have 2, so you don't really want to put them together. You still kind of want to zigzag them. Just shorten the candy up just a little bit. I'm going to put that one right there. We have our owl, we have the candy. Now it's time to make the bow. I need to make sure that my bow covers this whole section right here, and that it is more or less proportionate to our swag. I decided to make a funky bow, so whatever ribbon you're using, you're going to need 6 to 8 pieces. This ribbon is 2.5 inches in width, and it's quite a thick ribbon, so I'm going to do 6 pieces. So 3 of the birch tree one and 3 of this white one. Each strip is going to be 22 inches. I'm just going to use my ruler, go to the 11-inch mark. And so of course 11 times 2 is 22. So there is our 22-inch mark. To fold this in half, there you go. And I'm just going to make 3 strips at 22 inches. Same thing with the white ribbon. And now I'm going to go to the endings on both sides, fold my ribbon in half, and cut a little triangle to make dovetails. Now I'm going to start folding my ribbon in half, and we want the loop to be 5 inches. At the 5-inch mark, I'm just going to put it between my thumb and my pointer finger. 5 inches. And this one we're going to face the same way. When I usually do this, I have the first ribbon going one way, the second ribbon going another way, the third one going another way, and so forth. But because we only have 2, and I have one that's pretty see-through, and then this one is really thick, I have to do 2 at a time, because otherwise one of my ribbon is going to be on one side and the other one is going to be on the other, because I only have 2. So now I'm going to go to my third ribbon, get my 5 inches. Now I'm going to go to the other side. Same side, and then the third one. At least this way, it will more or less even out. At this point, your funky bow should look something like that. Your tail should be a little longer than your loops. Wiggle it in, bring that center in, and to tie it off, I'm going to use a zip tie, especially that I have a high-end ribbon like this birch tree one. It's really, really thick. Another reason I like to use zip ties on bows like this is because this is a very bulky bow in the center. So I'm just going to bring it nice and tight. The next thing you want to do is you want to grab all the tails of the ribbon that is one-sided, like this birch ribbon. Go to the center as much as you can, and you're going to twist it and just pull it to the side. And there you go. You have two that are facing the same way. With this white one, I'm not worried about that. But let's find that second birch one on this side. And we're going to do the same thing. Going to twist it. And here we are with the two tails. And just push them to the sides. With our loops, I tend to kind of twist them in place to bring them up and just start making the bow look really nice. But before I get into the bow a little bit more, I'm going to attach it. Let me do this last birch connection. Just easier to do it like this. Now I'm putting on another zip tie and I'm going to attach the bow to our actual wreath form. If you are worried about the bow slipping off, here is a great trick. You take some of these leftover that I told you to keep long and you face them up. After you do that, grab a zip tie that in place. As you can see, it's not going to go anywhere. So let me just tighten up this zip tie on the bow and then we can just straighten the bow out and we are done. Let's get to the fun and open up this beautiful, beautiful bow. Here are the supplies we're going to need for the centerpiece or a swag, whatever you are making. Here is a yardstick, 2 rolls of 10-inch Deco mesh. Make sure it's 30 feet or 10 yards. 30 feet is 10 yards. Always look to make sure that it's 30 feet, not 18 feet. Here's the ribbon I'm going to use. They're all 1.5 inch. The white one is from Costco. I get this whenever I can find it. Then this beautiful green one is from Joann's and it has little pine cones. Really, really pretty. And this one is 10 yards. And this light burlap ribbon, I got this one from Craft Outlet. If you are doing a centerpiece like I am, you're going to need something to stabilize your candles, or if you're going to put little vases, you're still going to need something to stabilize. So I recommend using something like this. You can also use some coasters or anything you have on hand. What I have here is, it says it's wreath decor, and I got it from the garden area where they had all the garden stuff, and it has a little hole and then something to hang it with. The little felt pieces is what I'm going to hot glue on top right here to hold the yardstick in place. The last thing you might want to consider, which is optional, is some greenery. I'm going to be using this frosted fern. This centerpiece is going to be quite large, so what I recommend is definitely stick to 3 main colors unless you're doing something eclectic or something kind of fun. But I would recommend sticking to 3 colors. In my situation, my 3 main colors are green, white, and this beautiful warm burlap. I've been asked before what I use to remove the stickers. Basically, you need to apply heat to make the glue a little softer. I use an embossing tool. This heats up a little hotter and quicker than your hair dryer, so you can definitely use your hair dryer, but I love using this little tool. Then I'm just grabbing sandpaper, whatever you have on hand is fine. And I want to smooth this out to make sure there's no glue left on the surface. I'm going to start by attaching my bases for my candle holders. The first one is going to go smack in the center. That's my 18 inches. Then I'm going to move 2 inches down. The center for this one is going to be 12 inches. And on the other side, the center is going to be 24 inches. Let's attach a little bit of hot glue on top. Attach my little piece of felt. And then I'm doing the sides and just hot gluing straight onto the felt. Now that I know that these are nice and secure, we can start attaching our 18 pipe cleaners. I'm going to be attaching them every 6 inches. If you're using a yardstick, it's 36 inches. Just start at 3 inches and go every 6 inches, and you should end at 33 on this side. Let's start attaching the pipe cleaners. The first one I'm going to tie to one side. Give it just 2 twists and lay it down. The next one is going to go in the middle. I'm going to face that one up. And then the third one is going to be tied on the other side. Really does not matter what order you go in, but you want one on one side, one on the other, and one facing up. I'm doing the same thing at the 9-inch mark. Pipe cleaners are on. They are attached every 6 inches, and look how nice and even it looks. If you are making a swag, make sure that you hot glue the back. I'm going to be using a piece of felt, and I'm just going to place my little felt piece right over. Even though I'm going to be using this as a centerpiece, these little felt pieces are going to act as a little buffer between my table and my actual swag. If you're going to be using 2 of the same type of deco mesh, all you're going to need is 18 pieces of deco mesh cut into 30-inch strips. In my case, color number 1 is going to be burlap, and I'm going to need 10 of these. Color number 2 is going to be this white, and I'm going to need 8 of these. And we're going to cut them into 30-inch strips. And now for the white. Now we're ready to make our ruffles, and we're going to do a set of 3. So we're going to do 2 of the burlap and 1 white on 4 of them, and then on 2 of them we're going to do 2 white and 1 burlap. The 4 sets that I'm going to do this combo on are going to be the 2 center ones and the 2 outside ones, and then the 2 white and burlap we're going to do on the second sets from the outside. Now it's time to make our ruffles. I always like my deco mesh to roll onto the table, and at the end I'm going to do just a quick little fold right here, just so that little edge is tucked in. Then I'm going to find my center, and I'm just going to start ruffling it up. At the end, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold it in just a little bit, like an inch, and just bring it together. And I'm going to attach the burlap pieces to the sides. Same thing, a little fold, bring it together. Keep the other end folded also and bring it together. And I'm going to put this ruffle on the other side. Then I'm going to grab a white one, make sure to fold and gather. And this white one I'm attaching to the center pipe cleaner that's sticking up. For this particular swag, the pipe cleaners on the sides I'm not going to be using anymore. So you can just twist it, cut it off, or just twist it and fold it over. Just like that. It's not going to show because I have a white little ruffle on top, and I'm going to do the same thing and hide this pipe cleaner. So now we have burlap, burlap, white. This next one is going to be white, white, burlap. Look how beautiful this swag is so far. Now we're moving to the 2 center pipe cleaner sets, and we're going to do burlap on the outside, white on the inside on both of these. I'm on my last bundle, and of course it's going to be burlap, burlap, and white in the center. As you can see, this is filled in really nicely, and this is where we start mirroring to both sides. It looks really, really full and beautiful. And if you are using this as a swag, add some ribbon, add maybe a big bow on the side, maybe a sign, some greenery here and there. So just follow your heart and decorate it any way you want. Now we're going to get started on the ribbon. For my centerpiece, I'm going to be using this one as my main ribbon, and then these are just going to help my ribbon stand out depending on whether the bundle is white or burlap. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 white, 4 burlap, and we're going to do 10 12-inch strips of my main ribbon. As always, I'm going to measure my 12 inches. Now I'm just going to zigzag until I get 10 strips. Now I'm just going to fold the sides in half and cut a little triangle out. And then we're going to do 12-inch strips, just for each of these 2 colors. We're going to be attaching our ribbon bundles to the center ruffles. So I'm just preparing my pipe cleaners so I can see them. Starting with the white, I'm going to do 1 burlap and 2 of the green. Find my center and just bring it together. Burlap and 2 green. And I'm going to just twist it up and fold it back. And the last one on the other side. We have 2 bundles left with the burlap curl on top. So we're going to do 2 white and 1 green. Bring it together. And here is my last little bundle. You can also add lights to this if you want, but I'm going to have candles in it, so it kind of doesn't make sense to add more lights. You could if you want, but I don't want to. And now I'm going to start opening my bundles up, and I like opening it kind of like a flower. My whole first floor is dark green and white. It's so pretty. My ribbon is all on. I'm going to grab my candles and put them in place. Now that everything is set up, I have my candles, so now I can see where everything needs to go. I have my frosted fern. I have some cut up already, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some in between the first and the second bundle, and then of course around the center, because that is our main attraction, and between the last 2, or the first and second on the other side. If you are doing this as a swag, obviously put some hot glue on it and then put it in place. I'm just putting it behind that top curl. Have it stick out a little bit here, a little bit there. I wanted to give you an evening look of the centerpiece, and it is so pretty. I like the way the ferns look as a little accent piece. The candles are from Costco, and here is my view from the couch. I have a little Christmas tree right there. Then I have my little village, and on the other side I have a little Christmas tree that's lit up too. So as you can see, it's kind of like a nice green and white theme. All the little Christmas trees right there, they're all from the Dollar Tree. And just another look at the centerpiece. I think it turned out beautiful. Let's go over the supplies for this wreath. We are going to be using 3 rolls of Dollar Tree Deco Mesh, or you can use 2 rolls of 10-inch Deco Mesh, or 1 roll of the 21-inch Deco Mesh. The Dollar Tree Deco Mesh is 6 inches by 5 yards, so if you're using a 21-inch Deco Mesh by 10 yards, you can make 2 of these with that 1 roll. Then we're going to use some of these silver vase fillers. We're just going to need a few of these. Next, I'm going to be using 2 of these silver glitter berry picks. They are absolutely beautiful. 2 of these Christmas greenery picks. The ribbon that I'm going to be using is actually coordinating ribbon. One is a gray background, the other one's a dark green. Both of these are 1.5 inches in width, and the edges are wired. You are going to need a total of 8 pipe cleaners, and of course a 5-gallon stir stick that you can pick up at your local hardware store. The first thing I always do is attach a hanging loop. You can also drill a little hole and just feed jute cord through that and tie a knot, and you got a beautiful hanging loop. But if you don't have any power tools, this is what I do. I'm going to be using a piece of jute cord, which is about 18 inches in length, and a piece of scrap felt, and I'm going to just use it to secure it in place when we're done. To get started, I fold my jute cord about 1/3 in, so here's my 1/3 and here's the rest of it, and about 2 inches in, I'm going to make a little loop. That's our hanging loop. Just like that. And then the rest of it is how we're going to secure the loop in place. Before I attach, I always make sure that the ruler side is on top, because I do use it to attach my pipe cleaners. So the loop is going on the back. With the tails that are left over, I'm just going to wrap around a few times and then tie a knot at the narrowest part of our stir stick. Cut the excess tail. And here is a close-up. This is the top of my swag, and this is the back of my swag with the loop. To secure it in place, I'm grabbing some hot glue, putting it right on top of my jute cord, grabbing that piece of felt. I'm going to put that over, and we are good to go. Let's attach the pipe cleaners. Our stir stick is 21 inches in length, and the center of it is 10.5 inches. So that is where we're going to start. At the 10.5 inches, we are going to do a double pipe cleaner. Find the center and bring it together sideways. And I'm going to twist at 10.5 on one side. Then the other pipe cleaner is going to go right next to it. And we are going to twist on the other side. The next two doubles are going on each side of the swag. And since the narrowest part is about 2.5 inches in, we are going to go right underneath where we attach the hanging loop, and we're going to attach two pipe cleaners. One on one side and the other one's going to go on the other side. Since we're 2.5 inches on this side, we're going to go to 2.5 inches on this side. I just love the fact that we have a little ruler to help us along. Now that these are in place, I have two more and they're going to go in between. This does not need to be exact. I'm sure you guys can eye where these are going in the middle. And this time I'm attaching it in the center of our stir stick, and we're going to face that up. If you would like, you can definitely give it a little bit of hot glue so these stay in place. And they will stay in place really nicely because this is raw wood. And then at the bottom one, I am going to put some, just like I did on the other one, but I'm going to put a little bit more on the sides. Grab another piece of felt or scrap felt and put it right over. For our deco mesh, I decided to add one more roll. Just something told me that 3 is not going to be enough because as I opened it, look how sparse it is. This swag is a great way to use up your Dollar Tree deco mesh. I'm going to show you how I'm going to put it in my little container. Starting with the worst looking one, which for me is this one. I'm going to put it right against the wall. The second one is going to go into this little clear container. And I'm going to line it up for kicks and giggles. I'm going to just clip it to keep it in place. The third one is going to go on the other side of this container. Clip that. And the fourth one is going to go on the outside. Move it to the side because the deco mesh rolls are not touching each other. Roll up and you're going to have a smooth roll. We're ready to attach the deco mesh, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach only to the doubles. Just think about it as going around our swag. On both sides, you can make 10 to 12 inch loops. I'm going to be doing 12. And then here on the sides, I'm going to be making 14-inch loops. I want the poofiness to be there. We're going to have a huge bow in the center, so I do want the deco mesh to show from the sides. And I know it's white, but it's going to be actually on a dark table, so it should look fine. First thing I'm going to do is gather my deco mesh, all 4 rolls together. Because we do have the 4 rolls, I'm just going to go around and make sure that everything has been gathered. Now that it has, we're starting on the side. As you can see, the deco mesh is poofing towards the table and my tail is going on the inside of my swag. 2 tight twists. Now I'm going to measure my 12 inches and attach to the pipe cleaner on the other side, just like this. We just made a nice loop on here. You can also eye this if you want, but I do like to measure, so we're going to go 14 inches on here. This is going to be so full and beautiful. Now I'm attaching to the center double, 2 twists, my next 14 inches, and now I'm attaching it to the pipe cleaner on the other side. Next we need to do the loop on this side, and that's going to be 12 inches. The next 2 loops are going to be 14 inches. I'm coming back to where I started, going to untwist and insert, and I'm going to twist again. Next we're going to cover the center. I'm going to make 2 10-inch loops. One is going to cover this side right here. The next one is going to go right here, and that is where we're going to go to our first single From here, I'm going to make a big loop. Really, I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to make a big poofy one. We're going to cover a little bit of this, and we're just going to give a lot more volume to this wreath. And then here, we're going to make another 10-inch loop to one of the sides, doesn't matter where. And then here, another 10-inch loop to cover this side, starting with our first loop. And I'm just going from side to side. From this pipe cleaner, I'm going to go to the other pipe cleaner. Give it a good 2 twists. The next loop is where I'm going to go to my single. Now I'm going to go single to single. This is where I said I'm not even going to look. I'm going to see what looks good, and I am going to measure it just so I know how much I want on the other side. That ended up being about 15 inches. Next, I'm going to do 2 10-inch poofs to cover up this area. I measured off another 10 inches. It's going to hop on over to the other side. You don't have to follow my exact way. Just start going around and then start filling in the center. Because I already have the 2 loops to cover this area, I'm going to go flat from here to my next single. And now I'm going to do the big loop in the center that I'm going to measure off at about 15 inches. Let me measure off. And the reason I'm doing this is I do want to make sure both sides are fairly even. At this point, I know that this is going to be my last loop. So I'm going to go ahead, cut off all that excess, and I'm going to put it right on top, but I am going to hide the tail. To hide the tail, I'm going to go right behind that loop, and now it's gone. At this point, you can decide to open up your loops because I have 4 rolls of Deco mesh. I'm not going to be opening up every single one. I'm going to do it by 2. 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top. I'm going to just push it down, open it up a little bit, filling that space up. My swag is all poofed out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put super sweet bows on each corner of the swag. So we're going to need 4, and then in the center we're going to have a huge bow. I'm so excited. First things first, we're going to make our sweet little bows, and I'm going to measure 24 inches. Since we need 4 of them, I'm going to need 4 strips. I zigzagged 4 strips. Now I'm going to make dovetails by folding the ends in half and cutting out a little triangle. For our sweet little bows, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our ribbon and we're going to twist it into an awareness ribbon. Let's do this one more time. We're going to grab it and just twist it. One of these, just twist. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my placemat. I want my tail to be 4 inches. End of my dovetail to 4 inches. And I'm just going to measure this one up. This corner right here is where I'm going to grab this side, going to find my center just by pulling it, bringing it back, and we have our bow. Now we're going to just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze in the center, and we are going to attach. I'm going to twist all the way up because at this point your pipe cleaner should not be that big. I'm going to fold and fold back, and then later on we're going to put something in the center of these bows. Now how adorable is this? Let's make another bow together. First we're going to do an awareness ribbon, then we're going to go to our measuring mat, 4 inches. Bring this one in until I have 4 inches here. Pinch on that little square, find my center, bring it in, squeeze, 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 squeeze in the center, and attach it to the next one. All your bows should be facing out. We're going to hide the pipe cleaner in the back. Our sweet little bows are in place, and now we're going to make the main bow. For the bow, I'm going to be using both green and gray ribbon. First things first, let's measure off a tail. I want mine to be at least 10 inches in length. This ribbon is single-sided, so every time I come through the dowels, I'm going to twist, and the way you want to think of it is you always want the ribbon to face up. My loops are going to be 6 inches. I'm going to do 4 for now, and then I'm going to have the green ribbon, and of course we are twisting in the middle and making same 6-inch loops. 2 more loops with the gray on top. To bring the bow together, I'm going to be using a zip tie for a bow that has really strong ribbon like this one is. You really need to make sure that you have a good secure connection. Nice and tight. Cut off the excess. Now I'm bringing in my pipe cleaner, and this is what's going to attach our bow to the center of our swag. I'm securing the bow in the back, and now we're just going to start bringing up all our loops. For a best full bow, what you want to do is grab your loop, and right here in the center where it was folded, we're going to open it up and make this area flat. That's what's going to make it look full. We're going to flatten these out, and look at this. Our bow is being filled right in front of your eyes. It's just becoming poofier and poofier and poofier by the second. What I decided to do, since we have 3 tails, is this green one is going to go in the center, the 2 gray ones are going to go on the side, and obviously these are just way too long. So first things first, I'm going to cut my green one, just make a little dovetail. And because I want the other side to be the same, I am going to go to the center and measure it, and it looks like about 7.5 inches. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. There you go. Next, we want to do the corners. I do want it to be longer than my green one, about 9 inches. Let's measure about 9 inches on this side. Now that all my ribbon is on, I'm going to bring greenery and those silver berries. Oh my goodness, so beautiful. So first things first, I'm going to open everything up. And when I do that, it's going to help me integrate it into the greenery. I want it to be kind of a part of it. Twist it in between these branches. That greenery is so beautiful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this right inside. And remember that pipe cleaner that we never took off, those singles? That is what's going to hold up our little piece. And I'm going to just wiggle it in. Make sure to loop both of the branches. And I'm going to twist it in place in the back. And then when we refluff our bow, it's just going to be so pretty. This side is done, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Our last step is to add on some of these vase fillers to the center of our cute little bows. I picked out the biggest, shiniest ones, and I'm just going to hot glue them to the center of each of the bows, just like this. I'm all done with the swag wreath, and the nice thing about it is from the top, this is what my guests are going to see, and when they sit down on the couches and looking at my coffee table, this is the view they're going to see. They're going to see the sweet, cute little bows, and I just think this is a great swag with this color combo to last me the whole winter. I'm going to be using this Dollar Tree Christmas tree. And look how beautiful it is. Look how pretty. So pretty. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just spread it out. Keep it flat. Anything in the back, just point it towards the front. And in the front, stand it up just a little bit. Now, as far as hanging these Christmas trees, I'm going to show you how I usually do it. I mean, ideally it would be nice if we can like cut it right here, so then we can have this a little bit more, you know, symmetrical, and we're not gonna have to like do crazy bows in here and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, most of us are ladies who don't have hands strong enough to cut, you know, strong kind of wire, number one. And number two, we can hurt ourselves. So I'm going to do what I usually like to do, and that is I'm going to put anything. You can use ribbon, you could use anything, and I'm going to just use a chenille wire or pipe cleaner when you're using something wired like this, make sure to do it this way when it's flat, meaning so you could just, you know, hang it right there. Of course, use finger protectors when you want to, when you need to. And then I'm going to start by wrapping it around. I always like to go a little higher, just a little bit to cover that sharp end, and then work your way down. There's the second pipe cleaner. And there you go, more than enough right here. For this next part, I'm going to be using these gorgeous ferns, and these are they're gray and iridescent. Just like our tree is iridescent, but these are gray and iridescent. If you can't find these, you can find something like these glitter branches. Anything that is can fill it up. Okay, I'm going to put it sideways. Maybe it's going to be easier because it's a little bit on the longer end. To make life easier on myself, I'm not even going to take it off of this. I'm just going to attach it right here. And then we're going to cut. After we attach it, I'm going to cut right there. So what you want to do is you want to move whatever's going to be in the back. Let me see. We need to decide what's going on the sides. Which branches. I like this one the way it's going. This one's kind of messed up right here. So these I want on my sides. So get those right there. And since we're going up, you just arrange it. For example, I want this one to go down. Move it down. There you go. That way you're already taking up space right here. Then this one right here. This one is kind of messed up. So I'm just going to put it in the back. It's going to cover stuff over there. And now I want to push these branches through. As you can see, this one is sticking out a little too much. I'm going to take this one off, and then I'm going to cut where you want this one, maybe like right there. I'm going to cut it, give it a dab of hot glue, and put it back on. That way it'll hold. This one we're going to use to fill things up and to cover things up because we have so many of these. We're going to use some of those. And then we want to cover this area right here. We want some branches and things like that over here. So what I'm going to do is we have this one that's it has a few of these on here. And yes, I put those on there. And so we're going to put them here. Just take some leftover ones and put them on. But these I'm going to put right here. Pull it through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use one of these tree branches to twist it around, and that's how we're going to hold it in place. That's it. I'm not going to use any wires, nothing like that. Look at this. It's pretty already, isn't it? Then I'm going to take a big one like this, and that is how we're going to cover all the branches here, is with these bigger ones. And I'm going to hot glue it to our stem right here. And I'm going to add some hot glue right here to seal it in. Now it's time to do my favorite thing, and that's make a bow. I'm going to be using a ribbon I usually don't use, and it's this one. And the reason I usually don't use it is because it just ridiculously sheds sparkles. There you go. Okay. But let's not overlook how pretty this is. First, I want to see how big I want my tail to be, and then I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to make a simple bow, loop number 2. This is what it's going to look like. Then I'm going to decide what kind of centerpiece I want. I'm going to bring it together with a pipe cleaner. Bring it together. And now I'm just going to wrap it around. I'm going to kind of put it in the middle and then wrap this around going to the top, covering that stem right there. And then the other one I'm going to wrap going down. Then I'm going to decide what I'm going to use here. And I think I like this one the most for this. So let me cut this off. Okay, to cover this area right here, we have plenty of branches on top. So let me show you through the back. These are just sitting here kind of taking up space. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pull them up and then down, and it's going to cover this area right here. But now we covered this area and it doesn't look so empty. And if you feel like you need to add a little bit, I'm going to add one of these to give us a little bit more silver. Now we have this area covered, because don't forget, snowflake's still coming, and it's going to cover this ugliness right there. As you saw, I'm very generous with my hot glue. I just noticed that this one right here is just a little too long. Okay, let's shorten this up a little bit and then put hot glue. Cut these on an angle. So now it's time to what I call balance things out. We're going to bring in some of these snowflake, and these are foam scatter from the Dollar Tree. And because we have plenty of silver, we're going to be using just the white ones. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hot glue them all throughout. We need one at the tip right there. And that's going to cover some of that gray right there, some of that wiring. I really hate that little hole right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a branch that's in the back that won't be missed. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it look like it's covered by it, and just kind of hot glue it right there. It's just going to blend in anyway. At least it's covered. See, I don't think anyone's going to be able to tell because it blends in with all the silver right there, but at least you can see the hole. Otherwise, it just stands out. If you feel like it needs something else, you can definitely add it on. But all in all, I think this is a really sweet, very easy swag to make. Yes, it is glam, but you can do it in any color you want. I'm going to use up all the snowflakes from this pack because you want this to look like a teardrop almost. You want it to float. And I felt like the white needed to be a little bit on the outside too. So let me put another one right there. Okay, so here is my version of this glam swag. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I already have a farmhouse one. I'll attach it down below. And also there is a traditional coming because a lot of you have asked for a red, green, and gold one. So that one is coming up, but here we go. Here is my glam, simple but elegant, beautiful swag. Here's the basics that I'm going to be using for this wreath. Some ribbon, Deco mesh, a bit of pipe cleaners, a sign. This one is from the Dollar Tree. And for the base of this swag, we're going to be using this rail that I got at Craft Outlet. Now it's time to attach our pipe cleaners to our rail. What you want to do in a rail is you want to go in a zigzag. So on one side, you are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pipe cleaners. On the other side, you are going to go in the middle of the squares and you are going to have 5. So let's do middle of the squares first and 2 twists. I went on this inside rail, gave it 1 twist, and I'm going to take one of them and just twist out. And that way this one is going to go nowhere. So once again, I'm going to go in the center here, give it 1 twist, go to the edge, and take one of the pipe cleaners and wrap it around just like that. It's nice and secure. I usually don't use hot glue on this, but we need this to be in place temporarily because at the end, we are going to put felt on the back of this, so that way it's going to seal all of these moving parts in. But for now, I'm just going to give it a little bit of hot glue so it stays in place. Just so you know, I am working on a silicone mat, so it's not afraid of hot glue dripping. Now it's time to cut my Deco mesh. I'm going to be cutting my Deco mesh into 30-inch strips. If you're using one of these Deco mesh rolls that has only 18 feet, this is going to give you only 7 sections. If you need 8 out of this, you need to cut it down to 27. But I'm going to be okay with just 7 from this roll, so I'm going to be cutting into 30-inch strips. My board is 24 inches, so when I need to cut 30-inch Deco mesh strips, what I do is I grab my ruler and I go to 5.5 inches and put that right underneath. So what I have here is 5.5 inches plus the border ½ inch is 6 inches on the outside, 24 on the inside. That gives me 30 inches. Now it's time to attach our Deco mesh to our rail. Unroll, going towards the table. Do a little fold in the end. Just gather, gather, gather. We're going to fold and then bring that in also. Now I'm just going to give it 2 nice twists, and the first one is on. How pretty is that? Same thing here. 1 quick little fold at the end and gather. Towards the end, I'm going to fold on that side and the next pipe cleaner. Look how it's filling in. So pretty. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of the rail, putting in the little ruffles. Now I'm going to grab some of this Dollar Tree ribbon, just red ribbon. Let me just cut off the tail here. I'm going to be making 12-inch strips, and because we have 11 pipe cleaners, we're going to need 22 of them. Most of the ribbon rolls from the Dollar Tree are 9 feet or 3 yards. And if you're going to use that type of ribbon, you're going to need 2.5 spools, because out of each one, you're going to get 9 strips. And all I'm doing right now is just making dovetails and cutting my ribbon at the same time, just folding the ends in half and cutting off a little triangle. I have 22-inch strips all cut up. Now it's time to attach. For the ribbon bundles, I'm just going to grab 2 pieces, fold them in half to find my center, and squeeze in the middle, and then attach. As you see, I'm attaching the ribbon without opening it up. I always like doing that at the end. All my ribbon is in, and I just pushed both tails to the side because we want to take care of the center. Towards the bottom of my swag, I'm going to have this joy sign, and on top, we're going to have a beautiful funky bow. For the funky bow, we are going to keep it simple. I have this beautiful birch ribbon that I got on clearance for 99 cents at Hobby Lobby. Then some white ribbon, then some of this sage green that I got during fall at the Dollar Tree, and of course, a little bit of the red to bring everything together. I'm going to be cutting my ribbon into 24-inch strips. Then just fold it in half and cut dovetails. For my funky bow, I have 5 strips, and I'm going to start and end with the red one. Since all my strips are measured in half, all I'm doing is just grabbing my strip and measuring off 5 inches and just putting it inside my thumb, just like this. Grabbing my white one, I'm going to do the same thing, 5 inches, but I'm going to invert it and put it this way. Then the green one, 5 inches. Then my birch one, which is my absolute favorite one. And by the way, birch tree is my favorite tree. When my parents got married in Ukraine, they took pictures in the forest in the middle of birch trees, and oh my goodness, was it beautiful. Okay, so I have it all together, and I have loop, 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 just like that. And now I'm going to grab a zip tie, zigzag it in the center. With the zip tie, I'm going to bring it together. I find that zip ties are better than floral wires than anything because they tuck in so well. Now that I know my bow is secure, that off. Now that my bow is together, I'm grabbing a big piece of floral wire because that is what I'm going to use to attach it to our actual wreath form. Kind of want to make sure I know where my sign is going to be. And then now I'm ready to attach my bow to the rail. Grabbing my bow, going to attach it first to this rail going side to side, and then I'm going to lock it in, going to the sides and just going back and forth to make sure it's nice and secured. Cutting another piece of the floral wire. I'm going to fold it in half and twist it. Now I'm going on the second rail with my wire. I'm just making a loop to hang the swag, and I'm going to take both ends, give it a twist or two, and then I'm going to take the tails and I'm going to wrap them around the sides. Then where you have all of that, we're just going to put that around the rail, and at the bottom we are going to give it a twist, and I just made a little loop. Going to put a little bit of hot glue so this stays in place. In order to measure where I want everything to go, I'm going to go just parallel to my board, just like that. I'm just going to flip and find two spots that look good to me. There and somewhere around here. Maybe I'll bring that in just a little bit. And then I'm just going to go parallel to that, about there and there. Grabbing 4 pipe cleaners, fold in half, make a flat little surface on the end, and it's time to attach. A little bit of hot glue, pipe cleaner, then hot glue on top at the bottom. That way we have nice surface to attach the whole piece of felt. And my felt is about 1 inch by about 1.5 inches. And these are just scraps that I cut into little rectangles. Now I'm going to attach my sign. Our sign is attached. Now I'm going to go around and take care of the tails on top. Just twist, twist, twist. Cut off the excess about 1 inch from the connection and then send it back. I'm going to go around and do this to all the ribbon bundles. Now it's time to cover with the felt. I'm going to grab a piece that is 18 inches by 4.5 because this is 4. You want a little bit more. A piece for the top, which is going to be 4.5 by 4.5. And now I'm attaching the back. I just hot glued top, bottom, and then the sides in. And then I have my little loop. I pushed it down, and now it's time to do the top piece. Same thing, I'm going to do the top first. I'm not going to do the bottom, obviously. I'm going to keep that open, but then I'm just going to do the sides. And I have to say, having a fine tip on the hot glue gun really kind of helps when you're doing this because the rails are quite thin. And there you go, nice and neat. And now it's time to start opening everything up. I absolutely love this part. We're just going to start I'm just going to start kind of looping it so that ribbon kind of looks like a little flower, just like that. If I feel like there's too much ribbon somewhere, I take one and hide it behind the sign. And now it's time to open the bow. We're just going to take our tails and put them to the sides and start opening up all those loops. If your ribbon is one-sided, like my birch ribbon here, I'm going to go as close to the center as I can, give it a little twist, and then send the tail out. And the other one's going to go on the other side, of course. Then open up the next one and just keep on playing with the bow until it looks like the way you want it to look. Keep on sending those tails back and just fluffing everything out. As I'm preparing to do the last step, look who came. Hi, Leo. I'm thinking he likes the ornaments. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab these ornaments. They come 2 in a set. Dollar Tree started carrying them last year. And I just think they're so, so pretty. So let me just cut off the thread there. And all I'm going to do is hot glue a few of them throughout the wreath. Put some hot glue right on top and just push it in. Definitely want one right here and maybe one on top. Leo, what do you think? Pretty, huh? And we are done with this beautiful Christmas rail swag. I'm just going to continue making things pretty until everything is just how I want it. let's go over the supplies that we're going to need. I'm going to start with this seafoam green that I would usually use in a nautical wreath, but our sign has very unique shade to its green and this matches it. This deco mesh is 10 inches by 10 yards. And then I have some leftover white 10-inch deco mesh, some of these gorgeous glitter branches. For our ribbon, I'm going to be using a combo of this gold 1.5-inch wired ribbon, then some thrifted 2.5-inch ribbon. This one will match our sign perfectly. This beautiful 1-inch wired elegant pink ribbon, and then our gorgeous sign. As you can see, the green here is a little bit like a seafoam green, so that is why we're using that deco mesh. Some pipe cleaners and a 5-gallon stir stick that you can get at your local hardware store. These, sometimes you can get them for free, sometimes they come in a set of 3 and they're a few dollars, so this is a great base for really next to nothing. I always like to get started by putting a hanging loop right there at the narrowest part of the stir stick. For that, I'm going to be using about a 20-inch piece of jute cord. I'm going to go where it's about 1/3 of my cord, and that's going to be the top of my hanging loop. Going about 2 inches down, I'm going to just make a knot, and we have a hanging loop just like that. Before I attach my hanging loop, I always make sure that the ruler part of the stir stick is on top. Therefore, the hanging loop goes in the back. At the narrowest part, I'm going to make a little knot, and then the long part, I'm going to bring around just once. You don't have to do it too many times. Make sure that's in the center and make another knot or 2, and you have a secure hanging loop. To prevent this from moving, I usually put hot glue and a piece of felt right on top, and I'm not going to put a lot of hot glue, just a little bit. And put that right over. This is a bit of an extra step, but I know my hanging loop is in place. Let's bring in our pipe cleaners, and we're going to start with 2 pipe cleaners at the 10.5-inch mark. That is our center because the stir stick is 21 inches. I'm going to twist my pipe cleaner on one side, and then I'm going to take another one and I'm going to twist it on the other side. Just like this. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom where it says 2.5 inches. At the top, I'm going to be right below that jute cord. When I refer to these as doubles or singles, the one with 2 pipe cleaners are doubles, and singles are in between the doubles. That's going to be next. My first single is at 14.5 inches, and this time I'm going to tie it in the center and I'm going to face it up. Same thing on this side, except it's going to be at 6.5 inches, and we're going to tie at the top. Now, I know I'm doing exact measurements because for some people that is very important. You don't have to do that. But for me, I know that it's nice and even, and I'm somebody who actually does not mind measuring. But you don't have to. This definitely can be freehand. I'm done putting on all my pipe cleaners. At this point, if you want, you can hot glue them in place. This is raw wood, so it's going to hot glue really well. I have black hot glue, so I'm going to try to go underneath so it doesn't show that much. In the center, just a little dot. You don't need much. For the 2 pipe cleaners at the bottom of the swag, especially if you are going to use this as a hanging swag versus a centerpiece, I recommend doing something different, and that is just going right along and putting lots of hot glue and then a piece of felt on top. And the reason you want to secure this real well is that's kind of holding your entire swag in place. We're going to be making ruffles for our swag, so I recommend cutting your deco mesh anywhere from 24 to 30 inches. I'm going to add on 5.5 inches to make it 30 inches, because don't forget there's a little half right here, so 5.5, 6 plus 24 makes it 30. Grabbing my handy roller cutter, I'm cutting at 30 inches. Roll naturally, and we're going to need 8 of these pieces. This white ribbon is so pretty. It has poof balls on it and a foiled white ribbon throughout. I'm going to see how many curls I can get out of it, and so I'm just going to clean up the edge and just do 10-inch strip. I will need at least 8 of these. I ended up getting 10 pieces of the white deco mesh. So what I'm going to do is the 2 extra that I have, I'm going to put on the singles. Let's attach our ruffles, and we're going to be attaching to every pipe cleaner on this swag. Unroll your deco mesh so that it's rolling onto the table, and about 1 inch in, I'm going to make a little fold. This will help you prevent fraying a little bit. Since I don't have a center, I'm going to go straight on my measuring mat. There is my center, and I'm going to start collecting. When I get to the end, I'm also going to fold about 1 inch on that side. So we're going to take our ruffle and connect it to every pipe cleaner. You can already see all the gorgeousness that we're dealing with. I'm going to finish up this part, and then we're going to attach our curls. This is what we have so far. Yes, the stir stick is showing, but that's okay. We have more things to add on, including our little white pieces of deco mesh, which we're going to, of course, curl. And I like my curls to be about 1 inch in diameter. I'm going to first add to all the doubles, and then the 4 remaining will add to our singles. Now let's do the single connections. We're going to do double curls on those. So I'm just going to curl my deco mesh and put a clamp on it. Then get the second one rolled up. Crisscross these, and that is how I'm going to attach it. Things are getting filled in. Wait till we bring the ribbon in. Now it's time to make our ribbon bundles, and I'm starting with this 2.5 inch ribbon. I'm going to be cutting all the ribbon at 11 inches. As far as this ribbon, I'm only going to cut 6 strips, and I'm going to attach them to my doubles. I got my 6 strips. Now I'm going to do dovetails to both sides. Just fold them, cut a little triangle, making sure to cut the ends. Next, let's move on to the gold ribbon. Same thing, 11 inches, but I'm going to need 10 of these. Dovetails on this one also. And now for the pink ribbon. My goodness. For the pink ribbon, what we're going to do is we're going to do 6 pieces, but then I'm going to do little bundles for the singles, and we'll do that later. I need to start making these ribbon bundles because somebody is trying to get comfortable inside my swag. So for our outside bundles or all our doubles, I'm going to get a 2.5, one of those 1.5s, and a 1 inch pink one. Fold in half, find that center, squeeze it in the middle, and attach. Since I know I'm not going to be attaching anything else, I'm just going to twist up about 1 inch from the connection, fold in half, and then fold back so we hide that. And so I'm just going to go around to all the doubles and do the same thing. Just one of each of the ribbon that we cut, and let's attach. This double is done, skipping the single, doing the next double. The doubles in the middle, I usually have the ribbon point out because that is where our center is going to be covered. So you want to make sure that your little ribbons are in the V, kind of going from the inside. Since the sign is going to be in the middle, you can see the importance of having our ribbon come out to the sides. Okay, guys, this is what I'm dealing with. Simba, what are you doing on the deco mesh? Look at this little troublemaker. How can you be mad at him? And this is what it's like crafting with a little kitten. My ribbon is all over the place. I am working literally in the air because he thinks he's playing game and he went underneath the swag. Yes. As Simba is playing with the deco mesh, I'm going to take this off the table because next we need to prepare the ribbon bundles for the single pipe cleaners. Okay, next we're going to make our 3 loop bundles, and I'm going to be using my 1 inch gorgeous shimmery pink ribbon. And what you want to do is first let's make a tail, so about 1.5 to 2 inches, and we'll just gather it. Then we need to make loops. I decided to make mine at 8 inches. So I'm just going to gather just like that. Another 8 inches and gather. Another 8 inches and gather. Where we have things gather just like this, we're going to grab a zip tie that Simba won't let me have and zip tie that. Make sure that it's nice and tight, and let's cut this off. and this. We have a pretty little 3-loop bundle, and I'm going to make a second one. I'm going to my single pipe cleaner. I have my 3-loop bundle. The first thing I'm going to do is cut a little bit of floral wire, just enough to wrap it around and to the back of our swag. And I'm going to wrap it right above our zip tie. Twist it tightly in place. Then we're going to grab 2 more of those gold ribbon pieces, find our center, attach them, and then this time this pipe cleaner, I'm just going to twist in place, cut off the excess. Right in the center of this, I'm going to put my little sweet bundle, feeding my floral wire to one side and the other side of my swag. Twist the floral wire in place. Next, I'm going to do the same thing to the other single. Now I'm going to work on attaching our sign. I just removed the jute cord from the top of this sign. This sign is metal. Instead of using some pipe cleaners and hot glue to attach this, because it won't hold unless you're using E6000 or super glue with it. So what I decided to do is I'm going to mirror the little holes that are on top at the bottom. And what I'm going to use to do that is a crocodile. Flip the sign over, and I'm going to use the tiniest hole on here. That's simple. Do you guys see it? I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and we have the second one. To attach the sign, I'm going to use some floral wire. I cut the floral wire into 12-inch strips. Then I'm going to attach them to each of the little holes and just give it a twist or two. Next is going to be the fun part, attaching. I'm going to put my little sign right in the center. Now let's flip. One of the floral wires is going to go underneath my stir stick, connected. Then the other one. The bottom of my sign is connected, but don't worry about the wire showing. There's just too much stuff going on. We can cover it with ribbon, with some of these curls. It'll be fine. Next, I'm going to attach the top, and then we're going to take care of the back of the swag. Underneath the stir stick, and attach. Our sign is on, and we had a little camera malfunction when I did the back. So basically, I grabbed a piece of ribbon and I folded the little end just like this, hot glued right in there, and just hot glued it to the back. This is 1.5-inch ribbon, and then I cut a little bit after the end of my stir stick so that I can glue the end of it to the front of the stir stick. And then I did the same thing to this side. The 1.5-inch ribbon works perfect. So if you have any left over that you're not using, this is a great way to use it up. Next, I'm going to grab some of those glitter branches. Let's cut them off. These are fairly long. I usually get 2 of them out of 1. So about halfway through the stem, I'm going to cut it, and we have 2 branches instead of 1. So that way we can disperse it throughout the wreath a little bit nicer and have more throughout. Look at how beautiful these are. Before I hot glue these in place, I'm going to go around and just stick them throughout the wreath here and there. My glitter branches are all in. Now I'm just going to go all around and just start with 1 and keep on going and hot glue them in place. Everything is attached, including our glitter branches. And now it's time to make everything pretty. Start opening everything up, and then the big picture will appear and you will see how gorgeous this is. I'm going to continue opening everything up, and that is it for this gorgeous pink Christmas swag. Let's go over a few things we're going to use for this wreath. My supervisor is here as per usual. So we're going to start with 2 Christmas trees from the Dollar Tree, and you're not going to need any of this plastic stuff, just the actual Christmas tree. Next, I'm going to be using some wired garland ties, some ornaments eventually, some florals. I'm going to be using these poinsettias that are ivory. Then these pigs. These are actually from the Dollar Tree. Look how pretty these are. Then you're going to need some floral wire. For this type of wreath, I highly encourage that you go through your ribbon stash and look through what you have left, what you can use up, because you can make a simple bow if you have a certain ribbon that is not that long, or if you have more of a ribbon that's left over, you can make a poof bow. So you can definitely adjust what you have with the actual wreath. Last but not least, you're going to need a few zip ties. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten my Christmas trees. Next, I'm going to overlay my Christmas trees. The second one on top, I'm going to lay a little further. Let me show you from the back. Basically, where the base is at the top, right here at the stem, that's where this next one is going to start. And then I'm going to grab a zip tie, and I'm going to zip tie Christmas trees in two places where I feel like it's going to hold really well, nice and tight, and of course towards the top. And then make sure when you're cutting these off that it's towards the side so that the back does not scratch. Next, I'm going to grab a wired garland tie, and this one matches my greenery pretty well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some hot glue right inside this little opening right here and stick it in just a little bit. You don't need much. And that's just so it stays in place. Next, I'm just going to add some hot glue right there. And then I'm going to make a loop right on top, just holding my finger right here. I'm going to make a loop, and then I'm going to start going down. The loop is to hang the wreath, and the rest is to conceal this area right here. I'm going to put a little bit more hot glue, and I'm going to put more just to cover the rest of it. We're going to have a bow here, so it really doesn't matter too much, but at least you have that covered. And in the back it's much nicer, and in the front. Now I'm going to start opening everything up, and any of these branches, just start opening everything up and bringing it up. That way we know what we have to work with. This area right here where the two are overlapping, it has a big space. This is where the bow is going to go. The rest, we're just going to open, open, open. This area should be nice and full for you. And if you see zip ties or any of that, that's fine. We are going to cover everything. In this area right here, to kind of fill this space up, going to grab one of the garland ties, wrap it around that area, and just let it go. If you want, you can definitely just throw in some hot glue so it stays in place. That way you kind of filled in that area a little bit more. The rest, we should be fine. The next thing I like to do is the bow, because that is our focal point. And when you're done with the bow, you can see what you can put in and where. I'm going to be using the bow maker, and I have this in my Amazon shop. I have it in the description box, so you can just click the link and find it. They are not expensive, anywhere from $11 to $13. You can definitely do this without one. Just these dowels help to keep everything in place, and I like using that. So I'm going to measure my little tail about 6 inches. I'm not going to really need a big long tail on this one, and because this is one-sided, I'm going to do a twist. My loops, I don't want too big, so I'm going to keep them about 4.5 inches. Then another twist, because as you can see, this is shiny and this is matte. I only did 4 loops of the ivory ribbon, and now I'm going to do the red ribbon. As I said, I highly encourage using your leftovers. I'm not doing dovetails with this bow. I'm just doing little angled bow tails. This one is one-sided also. You want the gold to be on top. Here it's matte. So I'm going to start with the tail, and I'm going to twist. And then I'm going to continue making 4.5 inch little loops. To bring my bow together, I'm just going to use a zip tie, cut the tail off, and then I'm going to grab a floral wire and just twist it in the back. And this is just so I have something to tie to our actual wreath form. And then I'm going to just continue twisting and making sure my bow is nice and secure. Now I'm going to just poof out my bow because the decorating part of it will all depend how everything looks. Fluffing out the bow is very important to do that in the beginning. After my bow is on, now it's time to fill it in. To decorate, we are going to go from the largest to the smallest. So our largest would be these picks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to start by taking all the tags off. The first one, I'm going to cover this area right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick it through, and as you can see, it went through the wire right here in the bow. And if you feel like it's loose, you can definitely grab some hot glue, put some hot glue. You can wrap one of these around, but it's so tight against the actual stem that it's not going to go anywhere. The next two, I'm going to spread them out. I want one to be about there. Just going to lightly put it first. And then the other one to be around somewhere right here. I'm going to go towards the stem, and I'm going to grab one of my branches and wrap it around. Then I'm going to grab that same branch and go in between the two of these, and then I'm going to push it up. This is what's going to lock this in place. I'm going to do the same process and put this one in a little bit lower because we want this beautiful cascade. As I'm looking at my wreath, I want more greenery here. So I'm just putting in one of the wired garlands, and I'm going to twist it, and you could put as many of these as you want. Now it's time to bring our poinsettias in, and I'm going to start at the top, and I want to cover this area just a little bit, give it a little bit more dimension. We have a bow going on. I don't necessarily want it in the center, but that's where it's going to end up. And I'm just going to hot glue it basically to this pick right here. Then I'm going to lay the rest of them out, and I try to work in a bit of a zigzag pattern. I decided to add only two more. One right here and the other one a little lower to the side. For this next part, you can either use ornaments or you can use these picks also from the Dollar Tree, you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these apart, and I'm just going to start sticking them in and wrapping the greenery around them. And then once all of them are in, that's when I'm going to come back with some hot glue and make sure that they are settled in place nicely. I need more fullness right here. So what I decided to do is grab more of my leftover ribbon and basically make tails. Find my center and just go around our actual bow. And after I went all the way around nice and tight, I'm going to do a quick twist, hot glue it in place, and we just filled in that side. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then with my ivory one, because it's a little thicker, I'm just going to go underneath and hot glue it in place underneath the bow. And that's just going to stick on the sides. I can make it shorter if I need to. So there's a quick solution if you want a little bit more fullness. Now all that's left is to bring some of the red in the bow a little bit throughout the wreath. So I'm going to be using these glittery pom-poms. They come in different styles. These have little sparkles on them, and because of all the sparkle I have going on, they will match. So I'm going to be using those, but they have fuzzy ones. They have some vase fillers like this you can use, or just simple ones like this that Dollar Tree has. And now I'm just going to grab these and start hot gluing them here and there. And then I got some white fuzzies, and these are just clean little snowflake, I guess, looking ones. I'm going to hot glue these throughout. Some supplies that I'm going to need for this wreath. We're going to need 3 rolls of Deco mesh. You're going to need 8 pipe cleaners, some sort of decor, some ribbon. I'm keeping with the farmhouse theme here, so I'm going to be using this green burlap from the Dollar Tree and this buffalo check that's from Hobby Lobby. Next, I'm going to be grabbing some floral wire. This is going to be to make a hook on my little 5-gallon stir stick. As far as our 5-gallon stir stick, it is 21 inches in length and it's about 1.5 inches in width. I'm going to start off by making a hook on our stir stick. If you are going to be using this as a centerpiece, you can definitely skip this part and go to the next one. But if you're not, we're going to do a hook. The reason I do it this way is I don't have the access like some of you may have to put a hole through this. So I found a way that is kind of easy to do and has not failed me ever. I cut off about 16 inches and what I'm going to do is on one side I'm going to put 2/3 of my floral wire, on this side about 1/3. I'm going to go to the narrowest part on the stir stick and I love this little groove. This little groove makes all the difference in the world for this type of wreath. The side that's really long, I'm going to twist it around a few times. And then I'm going to twist in the center. Now that we have it nice and secure, what I'm going to do is start twisting my wire. This is what's going to give the hook strength. Now that I have it twisted, I'm going to make the hook and make sure you have a little bit of tail left over, at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just twist it just like that. To make a little neck, I'm just twisting it. After I twist it a few times, I'm going to take this tail and twist it around the neck. I have my hook right here. I'm going to pull as hard as I can. It's going nowhere, so I know that's nice and secure. Now I'm going to grab my 8 pipe cleaners. I'm going to go to where it says 10.5 inches because that's my center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist one of my pipe cleaners on the side. I'm going to take another pipe cleaner, find that center, and I'm going to give it 2 good twists on the other side. So they're just next to each other with tails going off of both sides. Next, I'm going to go about 2.5 inches from the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have 2 tails coming off of one side and 2 tails coming off of the other side. Then I'm going to go right underneath where our hook is. That's your 2.5 inch mark, and I'm going to do same thing, 1 on each side. The 2 that I have left over, I'm going to go in between the doubles and twist in the center, and I'm going to point that one up. I'm going to do the same thing on this side and point that one up. So you have double, single, double, single, double. The most critical part of your wreath is actually this part right here, because if we hang it up, this can potentially slide off. So we're going to make sure that does not happen. I'm going to bring in my felt pieces. People have asked me what I use to kind of seal these in. These are just felt scraps and I cut them in small pieces. They will adhere so nicely to your pipe cleaners, and this is raw wood. They will absolutely melt into the raw wood. So a little bit of hot glue right on top and of course to the sides so that our felt pieces can attach. And I'm just going to put our felt piece right over, and I guarantee you that's going nowhere. On the single ones, I'm putting a dot of hot glue just underneath and just attaching them this way. But to the doubles, I don't want to mess around with the doubles. I'm going to put my little felt pieces right over the doubles. The Dollar Tree Deco Mesh is 6 inches in width and 5 yards in length. For this type of wreath, I'm going to use up 3 full rolls. To get started, I'm going to overlay the white Deco Mesh, then the black Deco Mesh, and then the white Deco Mesh. You could have it roll off your table. I just find it easier to use something like this. I'm using an IKEA basket, and I have them in order just like I'm using, and that's it. Now I'm just going to gather the end about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. I have my tail, and I'm going to start on one of the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 12-inch loops. I'm going to go 12 inches on top right here, then 12, 12, again 12 at the bottom, 12 and 12. Then we're going to loop a 10-inch right here just because the space right here is so small. So we're going to do a little bit of a shorter loop right here, and then we're going to do another 12 inches, and then we're going to loop right here to cover this area right there, and then another 12 inches, and then we see what we have left at that point, and then you can just play around to use up the rest of your deco mesh, because all it's going to do is just add to the fullness of the wreath. So let's get started. Let's do a nice twist in the beginning. There you go. Let's start with our first loop, 12 inches. There's my first loop. Here comes loop number 2. I'm done going all the way around, making 12-inch loops, only attaching to our double pipe cleaners. We have not touched the singles yet, but we are about to. I'm going to be making a smaller loop, about 8 to 10 inches. You don't want this one to be too long because it's just hopping from here to here. Nice and elegant 10-inch loop, and I'm going to attach it to the single. And now I'm going to make a 12-inch loop and go to the next single on the other side, making a 12-inch loop on this side. I still have plenty of deco mesh left, so I'm going to go to the single, fill this area in the center a little bit more. So let's measure 12 inches, and we're going to go right here to this next one. And now you can decide what you want to fill in. Maybe you want to hop from here to here and do a few loops like that to make this area a little bigger. You can do whatever you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a nice full 12-inch loop right here to fill in this area. Then I'm going to make a big old 14-inch loop right here in the center. And I'm going to go from the single one to the single one. And then I'm coming pretty much to the end of my deco mesh. So I'm going to measure off a nice 12-inch loop, and I'm going to put it right here. So basically you're going to cover all the edges and then go in the middle. I'm going to cut this off. And as you can see, I pretty much used up my deco mesh almost to the end. A quick summary of what I did. We started on one end and did 12-inch loops going all the way around. Then we did a 10-inch loop to get to our single pipe cleaner. And then we did a loop right here, 12 inches, then 12 inches, 12 inches. Then I had some deco mesh left over. I did 12 inches on here, then another big one right here. I measured at 14 inches just to kind of give it a little bit more fullness, and completed with another 12-inch loop. And that's it. Depends on what type of deco mesh you used. You can separate them or not separate them. I will not be separating them because I want the black to be covered by white to give it a little bit of softness, because you can see the black through my white deco mesh. At this point, we're going to get started on our ribbon bundles, and we're going to be attaching those only on our doubles. Starting with my green 2-inch burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to be making 12-inch strips, and I'm only going to make 6 of these. I zigzagged my ribbon up, and now I'm just going to go to the edges and cut and make little dovetails at the same time. Now that I have 6 of these cut up, I'm going to grab my buffalo check, and this ribbon is 1 inch in width. And same thing, I'm going to be measuring off 12 inches, and I'm going to need 6 strips of these. And same thing, I'm going to go to the edges, fold them in half, and cut a little triangle. Let's put our ribbon bundles on. I'm going to grab a green one, a black one right on top of it, and then I'm going to fold it in half just to find my center. After I found my center, I'm going to bring it together, and we're going to make a little V, just like that. And we're going to go to all our doubles, put our ribbon right in those. Find our center, scrunch it together, and make a little V. As you can see, my wreath is all complete, And the camera may look a little different. That's because I'm using my backup camera, my original camera. It just broke. So I wanted to explain exactly what I did to complete this. The last thing I recorded was when we did the side bundles. And what I did was I made 4 more of those bundles. So 4 more of the green, 4 more of buffalo check at 12 inches long. But instead of using them as a single, I just doubled 2 green, 2 buffalo check, and I attached them where I have the single pipe cleaner on this side and on this side, and I added little pine cones to the center, and I really like the way these 2 bundles turned out. Then I attached my centerpiece, my little Merry Christmas sign. I have 2 pipe cleaners, one on this side, one on this side, and I attached them straight to the stir stick. I also changed the bow on here. Originally this sign had a flimsy little red bow. I did not like that, so I removed the bow and put in a satin green one to kind of work with all the green that I have going on. Plus, I added a little vase filler on the sides. What you see here are actually little picks from the Dollar Tree and some of these berries from the Dollar Tree. The berries that I'm talking about are these, and you can find these at the Dollar Tree already. And I just cut off 2 and put 2 on each side. And then just a pick. These picks are so full from the Dollar Tree. I have one that's an apple, and look at this. It has a lot of stuff on here. Here's another full one. 2 little pine cones, some berries, greenery. Here's a Glam one with some gold poinsettias. Here's some silver ones. So you get the point. Dollar Tree has some really pretty picks, and there's not much to do. You just put in a pick, one on this side, one on that side, and we're all done. Once again, I do want to apologize that this did not record. I did not realize the camera totally just was not working. But as you can see, 2 more bundles right here with 2 sets of the green and the buffalo check, our sign, picks, and a little bit of berries in the back. This piece is going to be used as a wreath, but if I was using it as a centerpiece, I would not put in a sign. Instead, what I would do is either put a candle or put a short vase with some red roses. Just imagine the red roses against the green and all this white and buffalo check. It would look amazing. Today we are using the Dollar Tree 3D wreath form to make a beautiful and elegant Christmas centerpiece. Now these come in 2 sizes. They come in 14-inch and 10-inch. I'm going to be using the bigger one today. So if you can only find the smaller one or you prefer the smaller one, you can definitely do what we do today on a smaller scale. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the little wheels that come with this, and the instructions are pretty simple to follow on the back. I'm going to open up my little sphere here, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the wheel on there and I'm going to lock it in place. Just start with one. Alright, now I'm going to turn it upside down and do the same thing with the top. And now it's a little easier because when you do the first one, it kind of spreads our wreath kind of evenly, or centerpiece, whatever we want to call this. Here's a close-up of what it kind of looks like. And I did put them on from the outside. The next thing I'm going to do is these guys have these rods right there, if you can see. This little rod. So the one that's on top, I'm going to get pliers and I'm going to bend it. I just don't want it to stick out, but I bent it at the top. At the bottom, I'm grabbing a floral foam. This is the hard green floral foam. It's made to put in little vases that are going from wider to narrower, and you can see how the foam is going here. And I'm just going to center it in the middle of my centerpiece, and I'm just going to put it straight on top of that rod that's at the bottom of my centerpiece. Now my foam piece is glued in completely here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these wired pine strands, and I found ones that were the thinnest. And I'm talking about, let's see here, see, it doesn't say diameter, but these are as thin as they get. They're very, very thin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my time and slowly hot glue them to each one of my little wires. And one is not enough, which is fine. I'm going to grab another one and finish that off. And I'm just hot gluing it straight onto our wires here. When you're doing the continuation, make sure the strands are facing the same way. And I'm just going to continue going all the way around and hot gluing these on. Wanted to show you what it looks like all done with these. Mine are all facing from the top. The branches are going down, and I think it's very, very important for all of them to be facing the same way so it looks symmetrical and it looks natural. Now we need to set it on something. You can use a plate, you can use anything you want. I have this little shadow little box. I'm going to fill it in with greenery first. I'm going to be using some things I had on hand. This is leftovers from projects prior. This was actually a Christmas tree that was taken apart. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some big pieces and I'm going to cover this area right here. This is wired, so it's easy to move it around. And I'm just going to cover that little bunny on the inside with that. I have the bottom covered. We're going to give it a good chunk of hot glue. And we're going to hot glue our centerpiece to our base. Now our centerpiece is attached to our base really well. I did put it on a Lazy Susan so we can start decorating. Next, I'm going to be using my branches that I had on hand, and we're going to start filling it in. You want to start filling in with the greenery, and I feel like these are too long. I'm going to cut those in half and just start poking them right in the center. Now's the time to kind of look around and see, well, how far do I want my greenery to be sticking out from the centerpiece? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use up all my greenery that I have. And now I'm going to stick a few from the top. And I'm grabbing my little vase that I'm going to use to make sure that it's going to be in the center here. I'm going to take my candle out because I already know where it's going to stand and how it's going to stand. As far as the foam itself, no worries. I usually fill it in with some moss or, you know, anything you have on hand. We can fill that in with, and that's not a big deal at all. These are a little too long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little picks here, basically taking off the metal part here. And I'm going to put it in between these areas so it's sticking out of my centerpiece right here, and it's going to be nice and noticeable. I'm telling you guys, these picks are the best thing ever. I absolutely love them. You know, I always say not necessarily symmetric, but in a centerpiece like this, you want to make sure that whichever side you're looking at it from, it's going to look good. It's going to look unison. It doesn't necessarily need to mirror each other everywhere, but it does need to look like it just flows. I think that's the right word. It just all needs to kind of flow. All right, we have covered a lot. Now I'm going to go in here and there and cover it with some of these little greenery, the ones we were putting on top. I'm just going to cut them in maybe 4-inch strands, and just go in and out, kind of try to cover some of that greenery. I have 3 picks left over, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to put it in the center facing up a little bit. And I'm going to show you a close-up in just a second of what we have so far. All right, and I'm going to just put them on 3 sides. This is what we have so far. I have 3 of those picks right there. And then it's pretty much filling in. And yes, I know this is showing right here, but as I said, not to worry, we will take care of it if anything is showing at the end with some moss. And now we're going to fix this area right here. I saved 2 of my little branches here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start wrapping them around the top. This is wired, so it's going to stay, and basically my goal is to cover that silver. All right, from this side now, just to show you guys, it is completely covered right there. You can't see any of the silver. So the color scheme for this is going to be that very elegant champagne gold, or like elegant kind of pink with a beautiful green. So I'm bringing in my favorite poinsettias. They're the ones that are kind of snow covered, and they have pink on the inside, and they kind of towards the outside they get brighter and whiter. So beautiful. I'm going to cut the stems to about 4 inches. We don't want them to be too long. And the leaves here, they're little, I'm not going to be using them because they clash with our greenery. I have 6 altogether, which is perfect to put in between. Put them towards the top a little bit. To make sure that it's nice and even, I'm going to go to the opposite side and put one right over there. Then I'm going to see where these would go, approximately there. As I'm doing the centerpiece, I am completely falling in love with it. I think it's going to be absolutely stunning. So pretty. All right, the next champagne color thing we're going to do is I picked up these berries at the Dollar Tree. Now I only have 5 of them, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 of them for now, and we're going to put them in between our little picks, the plastic picks that we love so much, or Nadia loves so much, and we're going to put them in between. So I have my little berries right there in the center, and then the flowers going around. And as you can see, we are seeing less and less of the foam itself. You can definitely do this if you want. You can grab an extra poinsettia and put it on top. And I have 2 berries left over because those bushels come in a pack of 5. And you can definitely put them on top. But I just feel like it looks like an Easter egg when you have something like this and that on top. I just want to keep it clean. I want this to be nice and smooth, and I'm actually contemplating on giving my greenery a haircut over here because I don't want that to be sticking out so much. Next, I'm going to grab a branch, and this is a light gold branch, and we're going to kind of expand with those. So I'm going to put them in spots where, let's see here, here's an empty spot that we kind of need to fill in. Now we have our gold branches in, and to tell you the truth, it is looking so full. But I want to add one more little element, and that's these little ornaments. They are the little ones. They come in a pack of 15 from the Dollar Tree. The rose gold color that Dollar Tree has. To attach our ornaments, I'm going to be using an empty floral branch. And it depends on you how long you want them. Maybe 5 inches, maybe 4 inches. All I'm doing to attach them is just putting some hot glue right inside the tip of our ornament. Give it a nice little dollop there, and then just shove the little wire right in and let it cool. While the hot glue and the ornaments are cooling, I'm grabbing some reindeer moss. And I really love reindeer moss because it's quite strong and it doesn't fray like some other greenery. And I'm just going to look around where I need to put it in, dabbing some hot glue, put my little moss right there and fill it in. I'm finding that I pretty much need to do it just on the top edge of my foam, because don't forget, a candle's going on the inside. Now that the moss is in, I'm going to put these guys in a little bit of a zigzag. You want them to be spread out, so some I'm going to put at the bottom, some towards the top. I don't want too much on the ornaments because I feel like the centerpiece is busy enough with the flowers and the gold and everything else that it has going on. And now I have a little LED candle here. I'm going to put it in the center. Favorite amongst all the swags or centerpieces? Let me know in the comments below, or just stop by and say hello. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing for more tutorials like this. As far as Simba and I, we are going to give each other a high five, yay, and say thank you for stopping by. Bye guys. Mwah. High five. Yay.